A hotel for pigs, a real-life Jurassic Park, and an office space that can make you wonder, what did I do to get here? 2020 has been a year unlike any other. But even in this busy news cycle, there are some stories that make us ask, what in the world? African swine fever is the latest pandemic to hit the world. But unlike COVID-19, its victims are pigs, not people. So far, millions of pigs have caught this deadly flu in mainland China, and the government has found a very unusual way of protecting its surviving pig population by putting pigs in hotels. On the outside, this may look like a seedy budget hotel, but inside, it's a total sty. The amenities are enviable. A hyper-attentive waitstaff to cater to every need. The latest enhanced free feeding technology, and floors so clean, pigs will think twice about eating off them. Really, everything at this hotel is pure sophistication. Almost makes one forget we're still talking about would-be char siu. Each of these tragic late capitalism projects costs around $75 million. That's almost $2,000 per pig. But why? China is the world's biggest pork market. It's so important the government maintains a frozen pork reserve to control prices. In 2019, the swine fever killed nearly half the country's pigs. Prices skyrocketed and the reserves took a serious hit. It triggered a nationwide pork crisis, one the government is eager to head off with any means necessary, including expensive pig hotels. It's a cushy life, until it isn't. Okay, so hear me out. Indonesia wants to open its own Jurassic Park. What could possibly go wrong? But instead of man-eating dinosaurs,
keep absolutely still,
and Jeff Goldblum, we get these drooling, giant, deadly Komodo dragons. Indonesia's Rinca Island, the world's only home to the Komodo dragon, is in the midst of a $6.5 million tourism project to turn this once rural but popular island into a resort destination. Because really, what's more relaxing than tanning next to a 10-foot-long venomous lizard?
I mean, the next problem we've got is how do you get a dragon out of the toilet? He looks quite comfortable.
This project was recently unveiled to the public with a CGI video that hit the Jurassic Park reference even harder on the head. Seriously, did everyone stop watching this movie halfway through?
Gee, the lack of humility before nature that's being displayed here staggers me.
This project understandably raised all sorts of alarms in Indonesia. Can a development this size complete without disrupting the only habitat on Earth for these dragons? Environmentalists think not. And the dragons themselves, well, they're not too happy either. Japan had seen a boom in tourism in the last 5 years, but that's all gone now, thanks to coronavirus. The country that offered international travelers several weird and wonderful attractions is now looking to its local population for a gentle boost. The only problem is that the average Japanese person works too damn hard. Their discomfort with holidays is so bad, and they take work everywhere they go, and I mean everywhere. And thus was born Workation, courtesy Yomiuriland. Offering a guilt-free day trip, the amusement park has turned some of its key attractions into workspaces? And if that thought didn't crush your spirit, you can start by lounging at the pool while you snooze through another 2-hour Zoom call, or get on a Ferris wheel with free Wi-Fi and continue to pretend working for another hour. If your job is getting you down, try doing it with this view of suburban Tokyo. Maybe it gets better. Maybe you feel worse. But at the end of the day, if the true horrors of your completely unbalanced work life haven't gotten you down, the amusement park lets you use one of its thrilling roller coaster rides for an extra fee. And of course, as a safety measure, the park offers the same advice as its fellow amusement park, Fuji-Q, please scream inside your heart. I think we can all agree that it hasn't been a good year for us, let alone if you have a business. You might have to rethink ways to function in 2020. But ranking among the worst way to find loyal customer has got to be drug dealers trying to sell in rehabs. In India's western state of Goa, tourism help keeps local businesses going, and that includes the illegal drug market. But with most of the customer base still stuck back in Eastern Europe, drug dealers are reaching out to the only group that might still say yes to drugs, recovering addicts. Shamani, who wrote this story, will tell us more. What made you want to jump into this story?
So I read about this happening in a local newspaper, and I found it really intriguing because there weren't too many details. It was just that some drug dealers posed as like rehab clients to get like new customers. That's kind of what attracted me to the story, it was just so bizarre, but at the same time funny. But then I got more into the story, once I started speaking to the rehab psychiatrists. It became really evident that the story is a lot more intense because it had a lot to do with heroin, it had a lot to do with the opioid addiction and sort of how the state is kind of slipping into an opioid crisis.
So tell me a little bit about the illegal drug scene in Goa.
Yeah, so Goa is sort of seen as India's party destination. All kinds of people come because it's really cheap for alcohol. There's very few curfews in terms of like the nightlife scene. Bars and clubs are allowed to stay open for much later compared to other cities. So one of the things that I read recently, which I found interesting, is that there's a local legend in Goa. So all these parties start in a certain beach called Anjuna. And the legend is that there was no police station in that area, which is why the movement of drugs was so free. And sort of like over the years, it's kind of just grown. It started with just like weed and ecstasy and LSD, and now it's kind of moved on to MDMA. But I think one of the scariest developments that's happened in the last 2 to 3 years is that since 2018, more and more people are sort of, getting into heroin and meth.
When did someone notice this kind of thing, like, sketchy stuff was going on?
So after India went into lockdown, there were a lot of border restrictions, which meant that people from Goa couldn't really travel to other states. Neither could people from other states come in unless they had essential worker passes.
Right.
I think that sort of really changed things. It really disrupted the supply chains. That's sort of when the psychiatrist I spoke to, he said that's when he noticed that the dealers started trying to pretend to be patients at the center. The psychiatrist caught two to three of the dealers kind of discussing cannabis and kind of discussing heroin with the other patients.
Right.
Then a few other times he also caught them kind of trying to solicit clients. And so sort of when, shit went down, he was just like, okay, yeah, this is a problem. And I think from this particular center that we spoke to, 3 people have been caught.
Okay, so what kind of other drugs were the dealers selling?
From what we know, it was weed and heroin is what they were trying to sell.
So my last question is, what happened essentially to the dealers who were caught?
There were 3 dealers who were caught between August and September. I think the police were notified from what I know, but they were not handed over to the police. No complaint was filed against them. So I think, what the psychiatrists at the center realized is that it's probably best if they themselves are given treatment, and he started giving them counseling treatment. And last time we spoke to him, he said that at least 2 of the dealers who were caught are improving. They're showing signs of, trying to start over or, kind of find another profession. We see this trend of drug users sort of being, demonized and further isolated when that is the opposite of what the solution should be. The solution should be to kind of talk a little more about it, normalize it, and, help people understand that this is something that happens. I think it's telling a story of overcoming addiction in a way that's not looking down on the rehab patients or even the drug dealers.